back to another touchline video. If you're new around here, hit the like button, comment down below and subscribe. Today's video is going to be about what it would mean if each club would win the Premiership this year. We've got 10 teams in the race for top 8. We've got a few of them already confirmed, but we're going to go through each club that's in this top 8 race who's going to potentially be playing finals and see what it would mean for them to win the NRL Premiership in 2025. So we're going to start off with the league leaders in the Canberra Raiders. Now we all know Ricky Stuart, he's been there for quite a while. He's been in a grand final against the Roosters. They fell short with controversial moments that happened in that game that could have potentially got him a grand final win, but he's waiting for that premiership with the Raiders. They've had a long drought themselves. They haven't won it for over 20 years. They need a premiership. With the likes of Jack Wyden leaving, you know, they had some switches in their teams. Young players coming in, Kaya Weeks, Ethan Strange, you know, Fogarty's coming in. This is last year in the Raiders. So there's so much to play for the Canberra Raiders, and they really need a premiership. With them coming first, they're probably thinking this is the best chance to win a premiership. You see the likes of Melbourne playing a bit off. You see the likes of Panthers starting to hit form, but they started off poor. Broncos just lost against the Eels. So all of a sudden, Raiders are potentially in a big chance, probably the favourites to win this premiership, and you know how much it would mean for Ricky Stuart. Yes, the team would be ecstatic to win it, but Ricky Stuart, who's been there for quite a while, I think in 2012, he needs a premiership and he wants to win one with the Raiders, with the good team he's building. You know, again, with the youngsters coming up, they're building a good dynasty, and I feel no one saw the Raiders to be where they are right now. So I think the most important thing for the Raiders is the reason why they need to win the premiership, of course, is to end their drought, to finally win that premiership. But I feel most importantly for Ricky Stuart, he deserves a premiership. With the team he's built, he's stuck with them. He's had some tough patches, but the Raiders stuck through him, and now he has time to pay those dividends and get them the premiership. So I think that's the most important factor to why the Raiders, you know, need that premiership in 2025. Let's move on to the Doggies. Now again, the Doggies haven't won a premiership in 21 years. We remember what they went through ever since Des Hasler left. In 2020 to 2023, terrible. They won a wooden spoon. They just weren't clicking, and you just thought Bulldogs were not going to be a good team till 2030, 2032, a long time. But they proved everyone wrong. 2024, no one expected them to get top 8, but all of a sudden, this rebuild quickly turned into success. And now people were starting to question, is this a one-season wonder? We saw with the Warriors, it became one-season wonder. However, they're back in that race. But Buddha consistently, even this year, we've gotten better. They've gotten better. Captain Critter leading the team. Lockie Galvin coming in, which again, you know, last game against the Eagles was fantastic. So they're building something nice here. The coaches, again, you know, that wins really boosted their culture up. And I feel the Dogs need this premiership. Of course, again, a lot of these teams want to end their premiership drought. Everyone wants to win that premiership. But I think the most important thing why the Dogs need this premiership, I think the fans deserve it. The fans have gone through a lot, you know, with when Des Hasler left, the salary cap issues, you know, Raylene Castle, we had this whole issue with Ray Deeb. There was problems left, right and centre for the Dogs. But the Bulldogs fans stuck through. So many of them, 8,000 attendance when we lost 6-0, you know, but there's fans stuck through. And I think, yes, the premiership drought, of course, you want to end it. But for me, most importantly, I think the fans deserve this premiership. And the club, the coach, yes, the most important thing, they focus on themselves, focus as a team, but most importantly, think about the fans of what they've been through. You know, we know Bulldogs is a great team. They've got so much history, but imagine if they win the premiership, how much it would mean for the fans. Yes, these players would mean so much for them, but these are the fans that have been through the Dogs through thick and thin, who have been supporting them their entire lives. So I think the reason why the Dogs need to win the premiership, I feel, is again to kick off their success, to kick off their dynasty, but most importantly for the fans. Now third, Melbourne Storm. I think the pretty simple answer here is that Melbourne Storm lost their chances to win the premiership last year. Panthers defeated them, they claimed their 4P. Melbourne are out there looking for revenge. Now we all know Melbourne are Melbourne. They're successful. Craig Bellamy has built such a strong team. But right now, the reason why they need to win it is because of redemption. They need to bounce back after a devastating loss against the Panthers. They didn't win the Premiership. They need to make a statement. They need that Premiership to bounce back after that loss. And we all know how it feels. When you lose a grand final, next year you're just stronger. Look at the Penrith Panthers. They lost against the Storm in 2020. They went on to win the next 4 premierships. So I feel that's the motivation Melbourne are heading with. They haven't been the best. I think they've been on and off. Everyone thought they'd run the whole comp, but it hasn't looked that way. They're coming third, 4 points behind the Raiders. So yeah, they really need to step up, but their main motivation, why they need to win it, is to get redemption. So now let's look at the New Zealand Warriors. Now again, the last time they made the grand final was in 2011 against the Manly Sea Eagles. A good team. They had beaten the Melbourne Storm in the prelim final against all odds, made the Premiership but failed. Now again, I feel that New Zealand are in a position where they need to get their first Premiership. That's the main motivation for them. The reason why they need to win the Premiership is to claim their first Premiership. But I think most importantly, their fans. They're loyal. They're all New Zealand. Some of them have to travel, constantly to back to Australia, back to New Zealand. So their fans are doing it tougher than we are because, again, we travel, in-state. It's not pretty much of a long distance, but I think their fans deserve this Premiership. One of the best friends in the comp, alongside with the Bulldogs. They're passionate, they're loud, and we all love the Wilds. We all love the New Zealand fans, and I feel, again, the reason why they need to win the Premiership is, again, they've got to win their first Premiership. They've got to start their dynasty. They've got to start bringing success into this club. And we know success is brought by winning Premierships. They haven't won a Premiership alongside other teams in the NRL. But yeah, their main motivation is to get that first Premiership, to kick off their dynasty. But most importantly, likewise with the Dogs, it's for their fans because they really deserve it. Now, number 5, Penrith Panthers. Now, personally, for me, they don't need the Premiership. 4 years in a row, constantly winning the Premiership, constantly being too good for the rest of the competition, and somehow they still manage to win it. And I'm a bit scared. If they can get top 4, they're going to be a big threat. They're going to be probably the top 3 favourites heading into the NRL finals in 2025. Now again, I don't think there's a reason for them to win it. If they don't win it, I don't think they'd be upset. They've won the last 4 Premiership. But again, I think the main reason why they need to win it is to produce this story. From last on the ladder, they had 1 win in their 8. They were struggling. Everyone was like, what the heck has gone on with the Panthers? They have lost their rhythm. They've lost these players and nothing is clicking. What a story. From last to top 4, from top 4 to becoming 5 Premiership winners. What a story that would be. Honestly, that would be their the nail in the coffin of being the best ever NRL team there has ever been. You cannot go from last to top 4 to win the Premiership. And I think that's their motivation. And that's a scary motivation to have. I'm pretty sure in this modern era, no one had ever won 4P, let alone 5P. 5 Premierships in a row, and they've got that motivation. They're hungry for that 5th Premiership, especially how their season started. So Panthers are the ones to worry about. And again, their motivation, their reason to win the Premiership is to form that fairy tale story. That fairy tale story of coming last and winning that Premiership. So it would be fantastic if they pulled it off. Now the Brisbane Broncos in 6th place. 2023, it looks like they've never been able to climb over that mountain. The way they lost that game, I still don't know how they lost it. But Nathan Cleary produced one of the best grand final performances and won them the Premiership. Now Broncos, last year wasn't the best. This year, started off 4. They found their rhythm. They could have been 2 points behind the Warriors right now, but they lost against the Eels. And that's the problem. They lost against the Parramatta Eels. And we've seen that constantly. They've been losing games they should be winning. And if they had won that game, I'd take them more serious. But they just lost against Eels, who are favourite for the Wooden Spoons. How can you take a team serious if they're losing against the Eels? But why do they need the Premiership? Sort of like the Melbourne Storm, they need redemption. They need revenge of what happened in 2023. That Premiership was all theirs. They had one hand on that Premiership and they let it slip away. So the reason why Broncos need to win this Premiership is to get the redemption of 2023, to prove that they are the big dogs, to prove that they can still win Premierships. With the stack roster they have, on paper, the Broncos have the best team in the comp. I think you got Broncos and then you got like the Panthers here. They have a stacked roster. Urgerman, you got Adam Reynolds, Reece Walsh, Ben Hunt, Carrigan, Haas. They've got a stacked roster, but for some reason they can't win. So I think their motivation to win this Premiership is, of course, to finally prove that they can win it with this stacked roster they have. But again, to get that redemption from 2023 of how they completely lost it. And I think if they win the Premiership, it will take all that pressure, and knowing that they finally got that Premiership will just make 2023 like a distant memory. They'll completely forget about it, and they've got their Premiership. Now, in 7th place, we got the Cronulla Sharks. Now, Sharks have been dominant for these past years, always in top 4. Their motivation really is to prove those doubters wrong. You know, I'm one of them. I still think they're pretenders. Even when they'll come in top 4, I just didn't see them having that confident, that team, that squad to win the Premiership. You look at the Raiders now. This is their first great year in a while. I believe they can win the Premiership. Look at the Dogs. I believe they can win the Premiership. You know, even the Warriors, I believe that if Metcalf was there, they could have probably been threat to win that Premiership. But the Sharks, even when they were in top 4, I just didn't believe in them. I just don't think they're a good team. I think they're pretenders, and we can see they struggle to beat Rabbitohs. And I think their motivation is, you know, again, personally to prove the doubters wrong. No one's, you know, seen them as a successful team. No one believes they can win it. So their chance right now is to prove that they can do it with the team they have, Nico Hines, an addition of Fanua Blake. They got to prove to everyone that they can win it. We look at the Bulldogs in 2014, almost pulled off something no one thought was possible in almost, you know, winning that grand final in coming 7th place. So who knows, Sharks, you know, in finals, form goes out of the window. It's just who wants it more. And Sharks could be that team that all of a sudden potentially enter the grand final. So I think the reason why they need to win the Premiership is to put that theory in the bin, saying that they're pretenders. If they win that Premiership, or even if they make the grand final, it can just put some, you know, fear factor heading into 2026. So I think that's their main motivation. Now we head on to the Dolphins. Dolphins, for me, I don't think they'll win the Premiership this year, but in the next 2-3 years, they could. If they fix their defense, they're going to be serious threats. Their attack is amazing. Their attack is the best in the comp for a reason. And I think their motivation into winning it, why they need to win it, is to make a statement. You know, when Dolphins came in, I don't think anyone took them serious. They thought they're going to always be in the bottom half of the table, but they're proving people wrong. You know, everyone thought Wayne Bennett leaving was a big problem, but Christian Wolf, he's always been linked with a few NRL clubs, and now he's got his shop. He's proving why he's a very good coach, and you can see what's happening at the Dolphins. It's his first year. They're losing games, but they're winning some big games, and I feel with consistency, heading with the coach, with the team, getting the players he wants us, of course, it's going to turn them into a big team, a big threat. And who knows, they could win some few premierships down the line. So I think with them being the new team, they've only been, I think this is their 3rd year in the comp. Their motivation is, again, to win that premiership, to get a feel of, you know, bringing that premiership home to the Dolphins for the first time, sort of like the Warriors. So I think that's their motivation, you know, proving all the doubters wrong. Their attack's going to be a big factor if they were to go far in the finals. So yeah, you got to watch out for the Dolphins. Now there's 2 more teams involved in this finals, the Eagles. I put the Sea Eagles in top 4. I really see their team. They've been on a 4-winning streak. They lost against the Dogs. They have a good team, but for some reason, I just don't know what's happened to them this year. Maybe this Daly Cherry Evans, you know, saying he's leaving affected them. But they need this premiership to end, you know, to give Daly Cherry Evans a good farewell. You know, a fairy tale ending at a club he loves and adores. He's been there ever since 2011. So it'd be a good fairy tale for Cherry Evans to leave off with the premiership trophy. And I think that's their motivation. They need to win it for Cherry Evans. He's been a long time serving player for them. You know, he's going to be probably a Hall of Fame for them, a legend for the club. Their motivation is to get Cherry Evans that grand final. Whether they'll do it or not, I'm not too sure. Personally, I don't think they will. If they had beaten the Dogs last night, different story. I think they could have been in that picture. But yeah, their motivation, their reason to why they need to win the premiership is, of course, to send DC on a great ending at such a successful reign at the Eagles. And finally, the Sydney Roosters. No one's potentially saw them coming where they are now. With the young squad they have, Robert Toya, Mark Nwanga, Nick Tawase, they've got some players that everyone thought they'd have to gel. But man, they proved people wrong. They're in the top 8 race. They're still holding on to that hope that they can get into finals. And if Roosters just can somehow click, they'll be a big threat. They've got a good team. Defensively, they're very poor. That game against Melbourne, they let in some easy tries. But I think the reason why Roosters need it is I feel that these past years, I was one that was always tipping them to win the Premiership. They have the team, but for some reason, they just never lived up to that expectation, never lived up to that hype. And they really need to win it to, put themselves back as a big club. Because I feel these past few years, I just don't feel they've had that Premiership threat. As I said, I've tipped them to become premiers in these past few years, but they just never lived up to that hype. Yes, last year they were top 4, but again, you just knew that we're never going to go and win that Premiership. 2018, 2019, 2013, that year between 2010 to 2020, they were big threats. But now they're losing that something, and I think maybe it comes down to finding that maybe number 7 with Sam Walker, maybe a good partnership with him. I don't know, they're missing something, and the reason why they need to win the Premiership is to, again, be claimed as, one of the big guns in the NRL. And I just feel they've lost that name tag in these past few years. Yes, even if they've been 4th, I know Roosters, I've seen them, they've always been a threat. I know they can be better. And again, maybe this year they make finals, maybe not this year, who knows. But I think the reason why they need to win it is, again, to prove all the doubters wrong this year. People were writing off, I was writing them off, but with the young team they have, they've caused so many upsets and they're still in this top 8 race. So I think that's their motivation heading to potentially winning another Premiership. Leave your guys' comments in the section down below, what you think and the motivation behind these teams, why they need to win the Premiership. Leave in the comments down below and we'll have a read of it. We'll try and reply to as much as we can. Hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.